Intelligent people from both political parties are in the middle, conservatives and liberals, and they all seem to have different answers as to what is going wrong in the country.
Johnny Carson wasn't just a late-night legend. He became one of the richest entertainers of his era. At his height, he earned the equivalent of over $50 million a year. And by the time of his passing in 2005, his fortune was estimated at around $450 million. Yet behind that immense success was a story of privacy, generosity, and complexity.
I'm Johnny Carson, and I think I should tell you that I've given a lifetime to comedy.
Who truly inherited his wealth, and how did his commitment to charity shape the outcome? Beneath the polished public image lay a deeply personal legacy, one defined by family, philanthropy, and lasting influence. Carson's fortune at death. Johnny Carson's impact on television was monumental, but his financial success was equally staggering. When he passed away in 2005, his net worth was estimated at $300 million, which is worth about $457 million in today's money.
Johnny died peacefully in his beloved beachfront home, where our Mark Steinis is standing by. And Mark, he was surrounded by his family.
This made him one of the wealthiest entertainers of his era, a status earned through decades of hosting The Tonight Show and astute financial management. Despite retiring 13 years earlier, Carson's earnings continued to grow through investments and royalties. Yet, with such a considerable fortune, questions about who would inherit it naturally arise. Carson kept much of his private life out of the spotlight, fueling curiosity about how he planned his estate. There was no flashy public announcement about his wealth or explicit heirs, which deepened the intrigue. Those who knew him spoke of his generosity, but his personal relationships were complex. Over the years, his family situation grew more private and layered, especially after personal tragedies shaped his perspective on life. This complexity would eventually reflect in how his estate was managed. The size of the fortune itself added an unusual dimension to the story. In the 1970s, Carson was the highest-paid television personality, with an annual salary that peaked at $25 million, a figure equivalent to more than $50 million today. This alone explains how his wealth accumulated so rapidly. But his approach to money was measured, and he used it for more than just personal gain. Despite his fortune, he remained modest about his lifestyle in his later years. With such a large estate, many expected the division to cause public disputes or scandals, but none surfaced in any major way. Instead, Carson appeared to have prepared a thoughtful plan that balanced family, charity, and privacy. Even insiders admitted there was more beneath the surface than what news headlines suggested. The details of his beneficiaries would only emerge patiently through documentation and interviews. The key point was that Carson's wealth was not simply handed down, it was shared with purpose. Yet, one central mystery lingered. Who among his family and associates would ultimately receive his money? This question became more pressing as his children chose to stay out of the limelight, avoiding the path their famous father had walked. The complexities of Carson's private relationships meant the story of his inheritance was far from straightforward. Fans and followers alike were left wondering if his heirs would preserve his legacy or quietly step away from his fame. As with many legends, Carson's fortune became an extension of his story, a blend of humor, generosity, and sometimes sorrow. The scope of his money alone was enough to stir imaginations, but understanding how it was passed on revealed even more about the man behind the microphone. His estate was not just a bank account, but a reflection of his life's journey, marked by both success and loss. The pieces of his legacy would gradually come into focus as we examine his charitable efforts and family. Before fully exploring the distribution, it's important to consider the philanthropic side of Carson's estate. His generosity wasn't an afterthought, but a central feature of his financial plan. The institutions he supported and the foundation he created played a big role in how his wealth lived on after him. Knowing this adds depth to the story of his inheritance and shows a different side of the television icon. Although his fortune was vast, it was matched by his quiet commitment to causes that mattered deeply to him. This gave shape to a part of the estate that many fans might not have known existed. Carson didn't just earn money, he built a legacy that reached beyond entertainment into community welfare. As we look deeper into his legacy, this will become a key piece of the puzzle. The full picture of Johnny Carson's fortune at death is more than just dollars and cents. It is a story of how one man balanced fame, family, and a desire to give back. The true heirs to his fortune and the meaning behind his decisions would soon be revealed through this enduring lens of generosity and discretion. The John W. Carson Foundation. Among the most significant aspects of Johnny Carson's estate was the establishment of the John W. Carson Foundation, a charity dedicated to advancing children's education and health care. The foundation became the main beneficiary of his trust, initially valued at $156 million and later estimated at nearly $200 million. For Carson, this was not simply a philanthropic endeavor, but a lasting commitment to the communities that shaped him, especially Los Angeles and his home state of Nebraska. The foundation's priorities reflect Carson's values, supporting children's health and education in tangible, long-term ways. One notable gesture from his estate was a $4 million donation to the Los Angeles Children's Hospital, showing his willingness to address immediate community needs while funding enduring initiatives. Unlike the flash and fame of show business, Carson's giving was quiet yet deeply impactful. The foundation became the central vehicle for that generosity. Charity was not a minor note in Carson's life, but a driving force in his later years. After the tragic death of his son Richard, Carson grew more reflective about his legacy and how his wealth could help others. The foundation allowed him to shift his focus from personal fortune to communal benefit, a significant change in his outlook after retiring from The Tonight Show. The decision to leave such a large portion of his estate to the foundation revealed a sophisticated and deliberate plan to ensure his philanthropy would endure. While many celebrities make charitable gestures, Carson's approach was strategic and lasting. The foundation's ongoing work in children's health and education stands as a testament to his foresight, channeling his fame and fortune into specific, meaningful causes. Carson's charity work played a significant role in smoothing out the more intricate facets of his family's saga, thus permitting his name to go even further than personal connections. The foundation remained the public image of his benevolence, even when his family life was quite private and sometimes difficult. This mixed legacy of public charity and private complexity turned out to be a defining characteristic of the estate. In this case, his money was not only a means for his family and friends, but also a resource for the larger community in need. The foundation's visibility brings to light the question of whether the compromise Carson tried to make between family and charity was a balanced one. By designating such a huge part of his assets to the causes he loved the most, he must have thought of it as the most genuine inheritance he could ever leave behind. In monetary terms, the foundation's portion was many times that of his family's, thus creating a more extensive and meaningful dimension to the narrative of his inheritance. Normally, heirs get properties or cash, but Carson's legacy showed that wealth, which lasts, can take many shapes. Everybody still talks about the foundation that supports what Carson loved most and keeps his name alive in philanthropic circles. The case of Carson's estate also points to a less-mentioned aspect of the higher and better, the power of giving back. Carson's skill in distinguishing his income from his charity expenses connected the story of his wealth. The audience might not forget his jokes and charisma from The Tonight Show, but at the same time, the hidden hospital wings and classrooms his charity is funding constitute his legacy to no lesser extent. His wealth was not just passed on, it was steered toward a mission of love and community that is everlasting. To understand the role of the John W. Carson Foundation is to understand the heart of his ever-flowing generosity. While the charity received a major part of the trust, Carson did not forget those who shared his life. How the estate balanced family needs with charitable giving became a delicate act shaped by history and emotion. And behind that balance lay a story of love, loss, and quiet resilience, one that unfolded within his own family relationships, and tragedies. Johnny Carson's private life was far more complex than his charming public persona suggested. Though adored as a television icon, his family relationships were marked by hardship and deep personal loss. One defining moment came in 1991, when his son Richard died in a car accident. The tragedy profoundly affected Carson, reshaping his perspective on life and legacy. It influenced not only his personal choices, but also how he approached retirement and planned his estate. The loss brought newfound clarity, making Carson acutely aware of what mattered beyond fame and fortune. He retired from The Tonight Show the following year, in 1992, signaling his desire to step away from the spotlight. During his final sign-off, he addressed his sons directly, expressing love and understanding for the challenges they faced growing up under public scrutiny. This rare moment revealed a vulnerable side to a man best known for his wit and composure. Carson was married 4 times, each relationship adding layers to his already intricate family life. His longest marriage, to Alexis Maas, lasted from 1987 until he died in 2005. However, the children who eventually inherited his estate were from his earlier marriages, reflecting enduring ties to his first family. These relationships were largely private, sometimes strained, and difficult to untangle after his passing. Despite his generosity, Carson's family life was not without tension. Biographer Henry Bushkin once remarked that Carson's children did not give him much to be proud of, hinting at disappointment behind the scenes. Unlike his illustrious career, his family legacy was quieter and more complicated. His sons, Chris and Corey, lived far from Hollywood, preferring anonymity to fame, a stark contrast to their father's world. After Richard's death, Carson became more protective of his remaining family. This desire for privacy shaped how he structured his will and trust. He sought to provide for his loved ones while shielding them from the pressures that came with his fame. This discretion extended beyond finances. It reflected emotional care and a wish to preserve peace within his family. Carson understood the unique challenges of being a celebrity's child. His final years showed an awareness of those burdens and a commitment to ease them through thoughtful estate planning. Money could not heal emotional distance, but it offered stability and protection. His estate, divided among his wife Alexis Maas and sons Chris and Corey, was handled privately, avoiding public disputes and maintaining dignity. Ultimately, tragedy and reflection shaped Carson's late-life priorities. His son's loss deepened his compassion, inspiring both his philanthropy and the care with which he planned his estate. The balance between family and charity revealed a man who, beneath the stoic humor, sought to give quietly to his loved ones and to the world. This dual legacy defined the heart of Johnny Carson's final years. And within those layers of family, loss, and love lay the story of the people who stood closest to him, the women he married, and the children who carried his name, his marriages and children. Johnny Carson's personal life was as multifaceted as his career. He was famously married 4 times, a fact often joked about by guests like Lucille Ball. His longest marriage was to Alexis Maas, lasting from 1987 until he died in 2005. Despite his multiple marriages, the children who inherited portions of his estate were from his first marriage to Jody Wolcott, a family structure that added complexity to how his wealth was eventually distributed. Chris and Corey Carson, his sons with Jody Wolcott, stayed largely out of the public eye, continuing a family tradition of privacy. Unlike their father, neither pursued a career in entertainment, preferring quieter lives away from Hollywood. Their inheritance was significant, but handled discreetly, aligning with their low-profile existence. Alexis Maas, Carson's last wife, played a crucial role in both his life and the management of his estate. After his death, she inherited not only a share of his wealth, but also the Malibu estate, his prized coastal retreat. Together, the family's heirs, Alexis, Chris, and Corey, carried forward Carson's legacy, mostly away from the public spotlight. The focus of Carson's later wealth distribution on his first family suggests that, despite multiple marriages, his bonds with his earlier life remained strong. True to his private nature, those relationships were maintained quietly. The division of his estate reflected a balance between affection, responsibility, and the practical realities of family life. Carson's marital history, besides showcasing his public persona, also hinted at his emotional depth. The man who was charming and funny in public seemed to have more complicated private relationships. His 4th marriage to Maas afforded him some tranquility in his later stage of life. However, the inheritance pattern indicated that his bonds with the first family were still strong. The intertwined personal life dictated the character of his financial legacy. The Malibu estate that was at the core of his wealth represented not only his triumph, but also his getaway. The property was in his possession until he died. It thus became an important asset that would go to Maas. This was a gesture that had a lot of meaning, as it was a reflection of her significance in his life during the last years. By then, the estate had been sold by Maas, but this action only further highlighted the property's dual role in Carson's legacy as both a sentimental and a financial cornerstone. One more angle of Carson's family saga was the refusal of his children to get into the same entertainment industry he had formed. Biographer Henry Bushkin claims that this was one of the factors that caused the famous comedian to feel some disillusionment during the later years of his life. However, he still recognized the difficulties that his children had to cope with in the fame's drawbacks. His last public communication was love and understanding, which were the reasons why he planned his estate in a way that his children would be taken care of without being publicly revealed. In general, Carson's successive marriages, children out of wedlock, and thoughtful estate planning show that he was a man who handled family matters with great care. Though the circumstances might be difficult, his inheritance was a compassionate coordination of charity and family obligation, an everlasting legacy that was not only marked by wealth, but also by love and moderation. When thoughts turn to celebrity estates, homes often hold deep meaning, not just as investments, but as personal sanctuaries. For Johnny Carson, his Malibu estate was exactly that, bridging his public life with the quiet spaces he treasured. Malibu estate and property. Johnny Carson's 4-acre Malibu estate was more than a house. It was a symbol of his success and a refuge from the spotlight. Nestled along the California coast, the property reflected both his taste for privacy and his love of serene surroundings. After his death, the estate was inherited by his wife, Alexis Maas, who sold it in 2007 for $36.5 million, roughly $52 million in today's terms, underscoring its immense value. The Malibu home was known for its spacious layout and breathtaking ocean views, features rare even among celebrity estates. Carson's decision to maintain such a secluded property revealed his desire for a private sanctuary away from the demands of fame. It was not merely a financial asset, but a deeply personal space that embodied his success and discretion. For his family, the estate became a tangible piece of his legacy. Managing such a valuable property required careful thought. Alexis Maas oversaw the sale 2 years after Carson's passing, converting a major part of the estate into liquid wealth. This pragmatic decision offered financial flexibility while closing a chapter on one of the most visible remnants of Carson's private life. The sale also reflected a family intent on balancing sentiment with practicality, a recurring theme in the handling of Carson's fortune. Carson's Malibu estate fits into the larger story of how celebrities manage wealth through real estate. For him, the home was neither ostentatious nor showy. It was elegant, understated, and aligned with his persona. Quietly grand, but never boastful. Its high resale value helped solidify his reputation as a figure whose wealth endured beyond his lifetime through deliberate, well-managed assets. Though luxurious, the estate was also personal. Its inheritance by Maas confirmed her central role in Carson's later life. Her choice to sell rather than preserve it reflected a thoughtful, business-minded approach, honoring Carson's legacy while adapting to new financial realities. It showed how sentiment and sound planning could coexist within the stewardship of great wealth. The sale price not only reflected real estate trends, but also Carson's enduring financial imprint. Converting the property into cash simplified the estate's management and enabled reinvestment in other areas. For families handling such large estates, liquidity often outweighs sentimentality, a principle Carson himself might have endorsed. Even though the Malibu house is no longer part of the family holdings, its story remains intertwined with Carson's broader legacy. It represents both the tangible and emotional aspects of what he left behind: wealth, memory, and a life defined by balance between public achievement and private peace. From the walls of his Malibu home to the charitable foundation carrying his name, Johnny Carson's legacy continued to take shape in ways both public and private. This balance would soon reveal itself in how his fortune was ultimately shared. Distribution among family. When Johnny Carson passed away, his considerable wealth was divided with careful intention among his closest family members. According to various reports, including those from celebanswers.com, Carson's remaining inheritance was split between his last wife, Alexis Maas, and his 2 surviving sons from his first marriage, Chris and Corey. These 3 represented the private core of Carson's family at the time of his death. Despite his immense fortune, he chose discretion in distributing it, reflecting the guarded nature of his personal life. Alexis Maas, married to Carson since 1987, received a substantial portion of the estate. This included cash, investments, and the prized 4-acre Malibu estate, a sanctuary Carson deeply cherished. She sold the property in 2007 for $36.5 million, roughly $52 million today. The sale converted a major asset into liquid wealth that could be managed and distributed more easily within the family. Chris and Corey Carson, his adult sons from his first marriage, inherited shares acknowledging their place in their father's legacy despite their deliberate absence from the spotlight. Their avoidance of public life underscored a separation from the fame their father embodied. But the inheritance proved Carson had not forgotten them. The trust established for their benefit ensured they were cared for privately and without public scrutiny. Carson's distribution plan valued family connection while maintaining privacy, consistent with his lifelong approach. Rather than public disputes or displays of wealth, the assets were divided quietly and responsibly. He valued dignity and control over how his story and his fortune would be told after his death. The division reflected his wish to protect loved ones while sustaining his charitable commitments. Even though the primary heirs were disclosed, the exact percentages of the estate remained undisclosed, complying with the family's request for secrecy. This silence managed to mute the kind of sensational headlines that celebrity deaths usually attract. Rather, the people near Carson received the inheritance silently, just as he would have wanted it. This considerate distribution made it possible for the family to get past the public's curiosity and to go on the remembering Carson process, according to their own terms. With Alexis taking care of the major assets and the sons staying out of the limelight, they were able to achieve a nice balance between the public legacy and the private life, an elegant solution amidst the difficulties of blended families and enormous wealth. The foundation got a significant portion of the trust as a means to carry on Carson's philanthropy. But the inheritance of the family was something more intimate, a symbol of connection and private care. The combination of charity and family was a reflection of Carson's view of legacy as something more than money. As a result, the distribution of Carson's wealth was a reflection of the priorities that characterized his life: family love, devotion to philanthropy, and a great respect for privacy. His legacy then survives with grace and purpose through this. This leads us naturally to consider the lives of those who inherited his fortune and how they relate to the man they remember. Privacy and legacy of descendants. Johnny Carson's children have largely maintained a deliberate distance from Hollywood's glare, choosing privacy over public recognition. Despite their father's towering celebrity, none followed his path into television or entertainment. This decision speaks to a family intent on defining itself apart from the pressures and scrutiny that come with fame. Their low profiles reflect a preference to live quietly, away from the flashbulbs that once shone on their father. The choice to avoid the spotlight seemed deeply ingrained, as journalists and biographers have noted the minimal public presence of Chris and Corey Carson. According to Closer Weekly and other sources, the family has consistently kept personal matters out of media reach, emphasizing anonymity over celebrity. This pattern suggests a protective attitude toward their own lives and privacy, no doubt shaped by growing up in the shadow of a legendary father. Biographer Henry Bushkin, who knew Carson well, has remarked that the entertainer's children did not give him much to be proud of, an indication that the family's relationship with Carson was complicated. This adds a layer of poignancy to the inheritance story, where emotional distance mingles with financial provision. Their choices and quiet lives speak volumes about the challenges of living in the orbit of a cultural icon. Despite this complexity, Carson's philanthropic legacy remains a strong thread that ties his family to the broader community. His foundation's continued work serves as a public marker of his enduring impact, even if his descendants prefer privacy. The mix of family discretion and public generosity highlights the dual nature of Carson's legacy. The descendants' low-profile lifestyle contrasts sharply with the high visibility their father enjoyed for decades. Where Johnny Carson's name lit up late-night television and award shows, his children have sought refuge in normalcy and personal privacy. Their distance from Hollywood reflects a conscious choice to forge their own identities without the weight of fame. This distancing from fame likely helped preserve family relations in their own way, avoiding the conflicts often faced by celebrity offspring. The privacy maintained by Carson's descendants serves as a form of protection, allowing them to live lives less dictated by public expectations or media curiosity. It is a quiet form of legacy in its own right. While fans may wonder if Carson's children would carry on his torch in entertainment, it seems their legacy is more understated. They represent the personal side of Carson's life, rooted in family, away from cameras, and grounded in private remembrance. This personal legacy though less visible, is no less real. The quiet lives of Carson's descendants also reinforce the idea that a celebrity's legacy can mean different things to different people. For some, it is public fame and an ongoing media presence. For others, it is the unspoken inheritance of family memories, values, and support that transcends headlines. Carson's children exemplify the latter. In considering Johnny Carson's broader legacy, it is clear his impact extends beyond his immediate family. Through philanthropy and the ongoing cultural influence of late-night television, his name lives on in many forms. But for his descendants, the inheritance appears to be one of privacy, dignity, and a subtle connection to a man who once commanded millions of viewers every night. Carson's enduring impact. Johnny Carson's influence reaches far beyond the millions he entertained on The Tonight Show. His legacy is deeply woven into the fabric of late-night television, shaping its tone, style, and the careers of countless comedians and hosts. From David Letterman to Jimmy Fallon, traces of Carson's wit and timing remain visible. His easy rapport and natural humor set a standard that still defines the genre today. More than a television pioneer, Carson was also a philanthropist whose generosity continues through the John W. Carson Foundation. His substantial donations to children's education and health services in Los Angeles and Nebraska reflect his lifelong commitment to giving back. The Foundation's ongoing work ensures that his fortune continues to touch lives, extending his influence well beyond the screen. While Carson's children stepped away from Hollywood, his cultural and charitable legacy endures in the public eye. His name remains synonymous with late-night excellence, and fans continue to celebrate both his sharp intellect and quiet humanity. This dual legacy, public entertainment and private generosity, reveals the full measure of the man behind the microphone. Carson also played a crucial role in launching new comedic voices. By inviting young talents such as Jay Leno and Ellen DeGeneres onto The Tonight Show, he gave them exposure that propelled their careers. Many credited him as both mentor and gatekeeper, someone who used his platform to uplift others. His generosity extended beyond money. It was also about opportunity. Carson's influence was not only felt in the television sector, but also in the society where he was a major factor of change. His practices of humility, discretion, and meticulousness in money and family matters are a great source of personal character. He was one of the few who engaged in no spectacle during his later years and practiced what he believed in: family, charity, and quietness far from the public eye. The format of The Tonight Show, which Carson perfected, still serves as the model for the contemporary hosts. A flawless combination of laughs, dialogue, and realness. He made late-night TV not just an ordinary entertainment, but a cultural event, giving a daily ritual to millions of people. His affection and sense of humor made television less of an object and more of a subject. Thus, people regarded it as a medium to connect with. Carson's greatest accomplishment, to go beyond the ratings and awards, was the love and respect of the audience and the show business people he got. As empathetic as his character was, his quick wit made him the super television host whose whole persona was sharp and kind, famous and yet approachable at the same time. Carson's legacy is not only the money and the fame left behind, but rather the qualities of character, such as integrity, generosity, and lasting influence. His foundation carries on the giving part of his spirit, and at the same time, his television legacy keeps on inspiring every host that comes next. A man behind the laughs and the success who always cherished grace, privacy, and purpose is the one who teaches that the true legacy is not only the vanished achievements, but also the character of the person behind them. Johnny Carson's fortune was shared with family and charity, reflecting his compassion and discretion. His legacy lives on in philanthropy and late-night television's evolution. If you enjoyed exploring his story, please like and subscribe for more fascinating insights into iconic lives. And watch the next video appearing on your screen for another unforgettable story.